I dreamed yesterday that the trees outside my window, which had fallen out of leaf because of the winter, the leaves had all grown back in one night, green, large, with almost invisible gaps. In the morning, I heard a sound hitting the window glass. Da, 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 da. It must be snowing, I thought. When I opened the curtains, it wasn't the white blurred scenery that I had expected. It was just rain. Da, 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 da. It was finally snowing, but I wasn't happy at all. Spring is coming. This way of reflecting the sun. Stand in the balcony. When I talk with someone, I feel my hands are holding the words. Don't you think she's good for the morning? The snow is flying all over the sky, like flowing sands, falling on grass, falling on roofs, falling on rivers, falling on people's heads, falling on the wings of flying seagulls, falling on the moving trams, falling on the garden benches. Dancing, jumping, laughing. Its flower petals, its flower petals. Whiteness, whiteness. Gradually spread out into the blurred vision of the earth. It's like finding the center of gravity. Then, center of gravity disappears again. Suddenly, there's a small dog in her heart crying in the snow. Does the snow falling in a similar way in different languages? In German, Schnee. In Polish, śnieg. In Japanese, Yuki. In Greek, Czerny. In Finnish, Rumi. In Chinese, 雪. In French, neige. In Slovak, snake. In Thai, hima. In Korean, noon. In Latin, nix. I remember how I used to put my face to my mother's belly and listen to sound of her bowels. I said, in a quiet voice, "Your belly is flowing water, gru, gru, gru," like the sound of melting snow. The earliest images of memory are always connected to the colors, materials, shape of some objects, like a red heart shape of the glass, blue starfish, and the golden fish, and a round transparent glass fish tank. Until now, I still remember sometimes to add something to it or throw away something to it, then put it in my pocket. When my parents go out to work, I don't remember why I always stay at home or haven't reached the age of kindergarten. At that time, my family hired a nanny to take care of me. But it is often changing different people, sometimes older women, sometimes young girls. There is a young girl among them. She is young and pretty. Every time she comes, she wears a white cotton suspender skirt, thin shoulder straps, and her shapely shoulders. Even at that time, I was still a child. This seems that she is the existence of a beautiful girl in the cartoon, lively and vivid. She also has a skirt with sunflowers on it. Full-bodied yellow sunflower pattern printed on white fabric, with the summer atmosphere around me. This is my first impression of her. She seems to be a girl who lives on a tropical island forever. There was no impression of her in winter, because she left before the weather became cold and soon changed another girl. These young girls are just like the fish that shines in the sea at night. They are swarm around. My home is the Coral Islands reefs, where they have stayed for a short time. They take care of me. I'm a young hermit crab living inside, shy, timid, and unwilling to move half a step. She will lead me to a table in a bedroom at home. We will hide under the table together. She said that only the table is the safest. Sometimes she will calm my ears. I always feel that she is talking something. What she was afraid of, I don't know. Every experience hid under the table is a secret between her and me. She did not tell me not to say to others, to all my parents. But a child's instinct is to feel that I should not tell anyone. I hide this secret under the table and wrap it up. About a few years ago, when I asked my mother carefully if she remembered this girl, she had forgotten it. Still, when I asked her, I suddenly remembered her name, Xiaoyu. I always call her Xiaoyu. After feeling more and more emotional with her house during this time, I suddenly remembered the memories of my childhood. This is such a strange memory. Apart from her and me, there's no third person present, and my memory is probably not reliable. But I can narrate so many details. With the narration, it becomes more transparent and more precise. Imagine that night, she took me under the table, like a hide and seek game. But who is catching us? All I need was a dog of my own. I always wanted a dog of my own when I was a child. So I searched for one in every way I could, from the classmates' houses to the street, or the neighbors' houses. If I heard whose dog gave birth to puppies, I would immediately run to them and ask, "Can I have a puppy?" It doesn't matter what kind of dogs. All I need was a dog of my own. One day, everything out of the blue, my uncle brought a dog with yellow fur, unreadable in breed and age, yellow like a kind of caramel toffee that I loved as a child, and I liked to eat them slowly, melted in my mouth. But I didn't care about that. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered. All I needed was a puppy. That was mine. Because my uncle had brought it to me, my dad couldn't refuse it, and I know he hates animals. He reluctantly let the dog stay. Animals seem to have a natural ability to sense human emotions. This dog knew from the start that my dad didn't like him. So he ran away whenever he saw him. But none of that mattered. All I needed was a dog of my own. The distance between home and school was filled with anticipation and a sense of urgency to get home as soon as possible to meet this little dog with a caramel toffee fur. I don't know what day of the week it was. Still, it was about the middle of the week, Wednesday or Thursday, when I came home from school and met my mother on the doorstep. She was on her way to some place on short notice. She had a slightly uneasy look on her face. She looked at me, but didn't say anything. Then she laughed. I opened the door and didn't hear any animal noises. Silence spread across the space. The marble floor in the living room was cold and white. The TV was off, and there was a plate of fruit on the coffee table, something along the lines of oranges, apples, bananas. I began to feel panic. I couldn't see my puppy, who had only recently arrived, anywhere, and no matter how much I searched, now here to be found, restless and unsettled. Maybe he had run off on his own, but didn't know how to find his way back. Or, I know, there was always another possibility that could have happened. One that I sensed even though I was still young at that time. When my mom came back, I asked her if she had seen the dog, but she paused for a moment to say that your dad had sent the dog away. Then, without continuing the conversation, turned into the kitchen to start preparing dinner. I stood in front of the kitchen, staring at her back, wanting to ask her something more, but not knowing what to say. I went back to the living room and sat on the sofa, picked up an orange from the table, and started peeling it carefully while thinking that I hadn't named the dog yet. I know from the start that this would happen, or maybe not. But what did it matter? All I needed was a dog of my own. stand on the bridge, look down at the junction of the river bank. An immense snake is floating. The tail is heading towards the shore. The head is hiding in the water. You couldn't see the head, only see the body. Wiggling deep into the water, it seemed more like when you put your food on the checkout counter in the supermarket, waiting for the person in front of you to settle the bill, watching the items you pick out in the supermarket slowly follow the conveyor belt, finally enter the hands of the cashier with a scanning sound. This person put the scanned items in front of you, and you put them in the bag. The snake is like one of these conveyor belts with no beginning or end. It is a conveyor belt that runs across the shore and the river. A constant stream, a constant stream. Cyan, yellowish brown, with black patterns. It reminds me of when I was in middle school or the last year of elementary school. One day, I found a long snake skin on a wooden board on the rooftop of a friend's house. This rooftop is the only paradise in which we escape from school and the adult world. The appearance of this snake skin makes the roof more desirable and exciting at the same time. It is mixed with fear and anxiety and danger to unknown animals. I spent many afternoons on the rooftop looking for a snake, until I slowly stopped going there and became distant from my friend. I didn't find this snake. I started to imagine how this snake came here, traveled through half of the city, past these different buildings, finally chose the rooftop of this ordinary building. How did she climb up? She left her skin on a wooden board, then moved on to the next place. Or does she live on the rooftop all the time? Never leave. Does she have a companion? Will she have children? Will she die in the corner of the roof without anyone find her? Does anyone care about her? Maybe another child will find her body or the eggs she left on this rooftop someday. Or was everything just my fantasy? My hope to reach this part of the world I don't know through this snake? And I seem to faintly imagine that I could touch this unknown part through this snake alone. But I did not find her in the end. I only found the traces left by her in the world. And I am trying to chase the traces. This snake seems to live forever in the rooftop of my heart, without head and tail.